Hello. I am Todd Black, the host of the Comically Accurate podcast, and welcome to our first ever show. And I am joined today by the it guy himself, Dave Norbot.
Hi, I am the it guy, as Todd likes to call me. Let's put up my actual over there. There we are. I'm the IT guy here at the station. I do a lot of things, and I'm a man of, we'll say, many hats. And speaking of many hats,
Here we go.
All right. I'm representing the home team. Yay, sports team.
The Lone Sports Team.
Now,
I did not approve of that.
We never have to mention sports again.
I never had.
I know you're an Indiana guy.
Yes, I am. The national champion, undefeated, 16-0, football champs.
Okay.
Google him. He won. By the way, how did Illinois do in the March Madness?
I have no idea.
Exactly. They made it to the Final Four.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty cool. But didn't win.
We didn't win, no.
Did not win.
And people here at the station were sad. But we're not here to talk about that, Todd. We're actually talking about, comic books.
Well, okay. But yes, this is the comically accurate podcast. Easy for me to say. I only came up with the title. And we're here to talk about all things comic books, from the actual comic books to the shows that have been made, the movies that have been made, and every topic in between that has come forth from it. But you might be thinking, what makes you two the hosts? Like, why are we the ones doing it? What makes us so special? Well, my hair, obviously.
Yes, obviously.
Obviously, that's
And
why
there's
Dave has to wear a hat. I'm just saying.
There is a major difference here between the two.
But we want to show that we're not just two guys who think they could talk about comics. We really do love this stuff. We interact with it pretty much every day in our own ways, and not just because I'm wearing a Broly shirt and he's wearing Star Wars. So on this episode, our origin story episode, we're going to tell you our paths to comics and beyond, starting with me, because I'm the host. So as I said, my name is Todd Black. I grew up right here in Champaign County, born in Carl Hospital, and my path was heavily shaped by my father. My father
Very
was
interesting that you say that, but go on.
My father was a drunk and a fiend, and one day he goes all crazier than usual. No, not really. I'd be very scared if my dad was like that. But no, my dad influenced me because he was the one who said, "Hey, Todd, you should watch this, and you should watch this, and we should go see this, Todd, because it's gonna be really cool." Because when you're a kid, you really don't know what's good and what's not. You really just enjoy what your parents put in front of you, except for broccoli. Broccoli sucks. And asparagus. My dad loves asparagus. I don't get it. And Brussels sprouts. It's like, why are you trying to kill us? Have you ever smelled? Hold on. You ever smelled Brussels sprouts? Like
I've smelled Brussels and they suck.
See?
Yeah, they suck.
It's like, the pain.
My brother is a huge broccoli person. He loves broccoli. I can't stand broccoli. It's tree.
It's so wrong. Anyway, so when I was growing up, my dad was the one who got me into not comic books, but comic book shows. So I grew up in the 90s in the golden age of comic book cartoons and some of the movies. So like the Tim Burton Batman movies, I got to see those. And the ones that came after was Schumacher. I liked some of them, mainly Batman Forever, because we had a really good Jim Carrey Riddler. But I grew up on Batman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, say Spider-Man? Spider-Man, X-Men Evolution, Batman Beyond, Static Shock, all of those. I grew up on it. I absorbed them, and I loved them. Teen Titans, so good. And they went on from there. And then as I grew older, I got to see not only more of the movies, but then that's when the MCU came into play. And I got to enjoy the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then I actually enjoyed this Zack Snyder movie, so Quiet You. And then finally, when I became a college student, I decided to buy my first comic book. But I'm going to save that story for just a little bit because I want to hear what Dave's origin is in the early phases of his comic life.
When I was a young lad, and you said you grew up in the 90s, so
yes.
I grew up in the late 70s and 80s, so I'm a little bit more aged than you.
Clearly.
On this. Clearly. And I got into the actual comic books, Spider-Man, Captain America, the Marvel side, Fantastic Four. And it's funny that you mentioned your dad. You know, influencing you.
Yeah.
My dad was the opposite. So we went to one of my dad's idea of the boys get together or whatever. We went camping.
Oh boy.
We went and my dad barely was able to pitch a tent, and it was the saddest looking tent ever. And my mom and my uncles came to visit us that weekend, and they actually laughed and laughed and laughed until they fixed the tent for us. But anyways, Dad wasn't capable of lighting a fire. the getting the fire going. He just could not get the fire going. And I had brought some comic books to read in the car, the 2-hour car ride to the campsite.
Oh boy.
And Dad goes, I know, I could use some paper. And he grabbed my comic book. And and he ripped up Captain America and lit it on fire to get the fire going. And I remember seeing Captain America, punching the Red Skull, and I see this image of Captain America burning. The shield is burning, and I was upset. Understandably so.
You think?
As 11-year-old me or whatever-year-old me was like, no. And Dad's like, they're just stories. They're nothing. These are just, no.
Wow.
Dad was never into sci-fi. Dad was never into comic books. Dad was never into, he never really got me.
I was going to make a Jimmy Neutron reference because there's an episode where Hugh Neutron tries to camp and it goes absolutely horribly. But that's even worse. Yeah. That's worse than anything that happens in that episode. How dare you, Dave Norbot's father? Just stories?
Just
kidding?
Stories.
Wow.
Anyway, so comic books. I loved the genre. I loved the storytelling medium. I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man. I always got Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. But he's this science nerd who he can get rich. He can do whatever he wants to do to make money. But Uncle Ben died because of his inaction. So he's taken that ability that he has, and he's going to help people. And I often say that if I ever get elected into public office, I'm going to swear on a copy of Amazing Fantasy 15, because with great power comes great responsibility, and no one has any greater power than an elected politician. So there you go.
Nerds! We're definitely gonna need that graphic. I'm just calling it right now. We're gonna need that graphic because like even I didn't know that fact before. Like we only loosely talked about what we're gonna discuss in this show, but then like he pulls that out, and my first instinct was nerd.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll add that. We're gonna have a whole list.
High school was not fun for me, but
Oh yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah. That was long before my comics career.
So comic books, I love them. I'm very intimately familiar with them.
Clearly. All right, so
not that intimate. Don't go there.
Mm-hmm. You said it. I didn't. I'm just saying.
There are some comic books that my mommy wouldn't let me buy, and my wife won't let me read for probably good reason. Yeah. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, I do want to. I want to do a small side quest on that topic because I want to talk about something that happened to me at our local comic store, which I will get to soon. So one day, this was during a period when I would have to not get my books on Wednesdays just because of work. And so I would always reserve my comics and then I'd pick them up later. So I go in one day and I get my comics. I don't even remember what I got that day. It doesn't really matter. But as an instinct, I would go in and I'd flip through and make sure I got everything. Because sometimes you miss something. It happens. We're all human. Wink. And I flipping through and all of a sudden I turn the comic cover to the next one and I'm seeing something and I'm like, I didn't order that. It was one of those comics. I was just like, I didn't order that. And I even went back inside and I'm like, hey, buddy, I did not put this on my list. And even the host, the guy running the store was like, how did that get in there? And I'm like, I didn't know you sold these kind of comics. Not that I would have bought one, but like, I don't know. It was like, what is this? How did this happen? So it was like, okay. So, yeah. But as for me and how I got into comics, that is a unique tale in and of itself because, as I said, it didn't happen when I was young. The only comic I ever got, but I remember specifically, was a Batman, like the New Adventures of Batman comic, like with the cartoon series. It was a freebie that they gave away at Toys R Us. Remember that? Where a kid can be a kid? Yeah.
R Us.
Oh, that's Chuck E. Cheese. Anyway, but I went there too. But I only got like those free comics. But then when I got into college, something happened. I was going to a website that I frequented for news because I was still young in my internet age, if you will. And they said that Marvel beginning new Dark Reign arc. Like, what's that? So I clicked on it, and it was an article talking about this one-shot comic called Marvel's Dark Reign, and it was about the start of their next comic arc phase and like the overall event arc that they were doing. And the premise was basically that Norman Osborn had taken over the world, more or less. And he was bringing in a cabal of supervillains and anti-heroes to help strengthen his hold so that basically the villains would rule everything. And I'm like, that's actually a really cool idea. And at this point, I had heard loosely about certain comic events, Crisis on Infinite Earths or Secret Invasion and such, which had just ended. But I had never really partaken because my family wasn't exactly rich growing up. And so the idea of spending dollars upon dollars upon dollars for comics every week was absurd. I could barely get video games at times. Like I would have to wait till like Christmas or birthdays, for things like that. But I was in college and I had some money. And so I'm like, I got to find a comic book store. So I did the only rational thing that a kid my age, 18, going into Parkland College over there would do. I used the phone book. True story. I was like, is there a comic book store near me? And I looked in the phone book and there was G-Mart Comics right over there. No, actually right over there on Neal Street. And so I found the place. I went in and sure enough, they had Dark Reign #1 because it just released that week and a bunch of other comics. And so I became one of their frequent customers. Like I've been going there pretty much every week since God's 18 years old. I'm older now. Let's just put it that way. I'm 36. So God's, that was half my life ago. I know I am so old.
I'm 52.
Yeah, I know 52 weeks in a year, and I'm already almost to my end of my 52. Yeah.
Whatever, go on.
Yeah. But I started reading, and then around that time also was a perfect jumping on point for DC Comics because there was the Blackest Night event with Green Lantern, which is amazing. Batman was doing the Battle of the Cowl event, which still remains one of my all-time favorite arcs and event comics. So I just slowly, because they just got done with Final Crisis, which was complex, and you didn't see it. When I say it's complex, you went, so, but I started getting into there, and I didn't get into everything. So which is, I'll admit it's a bit odd because, again, I grew up on certain characters like Spider-Man, the Spider-Man animated series, Spectacular Spider-Man, and certain other ones. But I never read a Spider-Man comic. But even with that, I decided, this is fun. I'm doing this every week, and I've been reading comics every week for the last 18 years. That's mind-boggling for me to say it loud, but it was the start of my comics journey, and even I did not know where exactly it would go. But I'll tell you in a few minutes. Bye. Welcome back. So, I left off noting that I had just gotten to my comic book journey, but I did not know where that journey would take me. And the proof of that is that because of where I went, I met Dave.
Hey!
Yeah, this is the true story of how, this is the real origin story of how Comically Accurate came to be, because I am a comic book writer. Yes, I make my own comics and novels. And it started...
It says right there.
See, it says right there, author. It also needs to say super but we'll add that in next issue. Yes, issue, not podcast episode, canon. So I make comic books. I've actually made over 50, as mind-boggling as that sounds, and more are on the way. But how did this all happen? Well, a big part of it was that I was reading comic books every week. And again, I grew up on these animated series and movies that inspired me. And during high school, which much like Dave's was rough, like Yeah. I am almost envious of the people who say that they had the easy high school.
Who were these people?
Who were these people?
I know who they were. They were the jocks. They were the football players.
Well,
they were the cool kids.
I'll give you the cool kids. I won't give you the athletes because they were under tremendous pressure. Like, think about it. Like, because they had to do all the practices and they had to perform during the games. Like, yes, they got like the vibes of like, I'm the star athlete. But when you're not winning, that don't matter.
Yeah,
true. It's the classic. And so, see, we are talking about sports because it matters. Context. All right. So I was just engulfed in all of this. And then I went to Chicago for 2 years to finish my college education. And thankfully, I'm not paying the student loans anymore. But I was reading one of my comics. Shout out to Graham Cracker Comics in Chicago, great store. And I turned a page, and suddenly there was an ad. And the ad said, Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, C2E2. McCormick Place, Chicago, Illinois. I'm like, there's a Comic-Con here? I didn't even think about it, obviously. Like, Comic-Con was something, again, I heard about, like with San Diego.
Yes,
like everyone knew
Diego.
San Diego, New York. But I'm like, yeah, there's a Comic-Con.
C2E2. Yes.
C2E2. I didn't, and this has only been like, at this point in time, it had only been going for like 2 years, 3 years.
Wasn't that long
No.
when you first went?
I was 2011.
Okay.
So like it was like first 2 or 3 years. I did what any self-respecting comic book fan and college student would do the moment that he saw that ad. I called my mom. I called my mom and said, "Hey, Mom, can I go to Comic-Con?" I'm very attached to my parents. But she said, yeah. And in fact, she actually bought me the VIP pass for the show. And that's important because the VIP pass got me to meet a certain someone, Chris Hemsworth, right as the Thor movie was about to come out. He had a huge panel there and everything. It was great. It was a great experience overall. But the key thing was that I went to a panel called Making Comics the Marvel Way. And on that panel were a bunch of people who were working at Marvel that day, or that period, one of which was Matt Fraction, legendary comic book writer. He's currently the writer of Batman. I revised that. One of the Batman series. It's technically the main Batman series. But at the time, he was working on Iron Man. And so I went to the panel because in high school, to backtrack to that, I had been writing stories for assignments and whatever, and I really liked it. And I had an idea in my head of what I wanted to do for a comic book series. And so I went to the panel. I said to Matt Fraction, "Hey, I'm a writer. I'm trying to be at least, and I would love to make a comic book. What should I do?" And he goes, "If you're a writer and you want to make comics, go find an artist and go make comics." Like, pretty much that was it. So fast forward 2 years, and I started doing that because, Dave, I don't know if you know this, it costs money.
It does, I know.
It does. Like, I tried to do it the free route because I have pulled off certain feats for free in the past, including today, because I can't be cheap, but I need to be. Just look at my hair. I haven't cut it in 7 years. That's canon, by the way. 2019. But I tried to make it. It didn't work out. So eventually, after college, and when I was getting a regular 9-to-5 job, that broke me. It broke me. Dramatic music. I was a child and I did not understand the workplace. No, it was bad. But I, in my desperation to not just get out of that job, but to have something to look forward to every day, I used the money that I made from that job to make my very first comic, which was called Guardians. And my take on this,
available on Amazon.com.
it is, which I'm sure Dave would give a 5-star review.
I will. Yes, it was a good story.
Thank you. He says that, but he didn't pledge my Kickstarter the other month. Anyway, the Todd does not forget.
I am married, Todd. I have a thing called money too, and the wife controls the money.
Then ask her to get it. I don't care. I don't care who backs the Kickstarter, Dave, as long as you back it. He said he would. He didn't. But I started to make the comic, and it was intoxicating. Like, seeing the art. I worked with 2 great artists, Alex Garcia and Ang Chichua. And just like seeing the art and seeing my characters coming to life was just incredible. And even when Ang Chi had to leave after the first issue, Alex Garcia stepped up and we worked out a deal to where we could keep making comics together. And 3 issues in, I hit arguably one of my most important milestones in comic creation. I went broke. Okay, not fully broke, but it was close because at the time, don't get me wrong, I was working a lot, but I was also spending a lot because of the comic. Now, at the time, thankfully, I was also living with my parents because, college loans and all that. Yeah. But no judgment to anyone who's doing that. Trust me, I get it. All right, don't let the haters say like, "Oh, you live with your parents." Like sometimes it's what you have to do.
It's actually the smartest thing to do. As long as your parents are welcoming to you, then live with your mom and dad. It's okay.
I did, and I did, and then one day they're like, "Todd, you probably should move out." And I'm like, "Oh, after all I've done for you." Anyway, but I did basically almost go broke, so I had to work out a different deal with Alex so we could keep going. But we just kept making comics because it was fun. And so we did 20 issues of Guardians. Then I started to do different genres because I was like, I have other stories I want to tell. I did superhero. Actually, one quick thing. When I was doing the superhero series, I went back to C2E2 and I met some really good people. And multiple ones told me, Todd, don't make superhero comics. And I'm like, why would you say that? And they go, well, everyone, between Marvel and DC and technically Image, Dark Horse, Valiant, and certain other ones, you shouldn't do that. But I did it anyway because that's what I grew up on. It's the story that I wanted to tell. And to this day, Guardians remains one of my best-selling comics. I just did a Comic-Con. I had 10 copies of Volume 1 sold out in 3 days, plus multiple copies of all the other volumes I did. So sometimes you just got to ignore the advice and do what you love.
Follow your dreams.
Follow your dreams and see where they go. And I'll tell you where things went after that, after our break.
Nice segue.
Thank you. Welcome back. Funny thing happened during the break. Dave over here told me a story of how his brother was at the C2E2 I was in my debut, and he had a funny story to tell.
Well, I don't know if it's funny as yours, but so my brother Pete was he had a medical condition. I won't go in too much into it, but one of his favorite artists was, and I'm drawing a blank on the name now, Michael Turner.
Okay.
Michael Turner. And during his medical condition where he was getting treated and such, Michael Turner had the same condition. And my other brother, John, had wrote Michael Turner and said, hey, my brother's a huge fan of your work. He's going through the same thing that you went through. And Michael Turner was very kind. He gave him a bunch of signed autographs of his work and stuff. And after Peter got better, was able to move around and stuff, he went to C2E2, the same one that you were at. And he said, he went up to Michael Turner and said, hey, I don't know if you remember me or not, but my brother wrote you a letter and, you were very kind to me. And Michael Turner goes, oh, you're Peter Norbot. And hang on, I want to talk to you. So he took Peter off to the side, and afterwards they talked to him. But anyways, long story short is that Pete got a job working at C2E2. And he was part of, the pages that were running around and do stuff. He actually got to deliver a chicken sandwich to Chris Hemsworth. So he served the mighty Thor his chicken sandwich.
This is delicious. Another! That is amazing. Like we always hear about the 6 degrees joke. Like this is 6 degrees right here. Because I'm like, oh, we were at the same con. Okay, that's cool. It was like, oh, but he was the guy who got hired to serve a sandwich to Chris Hemsworth. Huh?
And he got a picture of holding their prop for Captain America's shield. Yeah, he got a picture of holding that prop. So
oh my gosh, cool. That's amazing. So my Thor story was I did meet Thor. He was very kind. He had the short hair at the time, but he was there. He did a panel. And we did a Q&A. We did a Q&A at there was a Q&A there, and I was able to ask the question. Now, at this point in time, this is very, very important, there were a lot of people, let's call it, doing double dipping in terms of their roles. And one of them was Ryan Reynolds, who did, of course, Green Lantern and then became Deadpool. And so I was thinking, like, maybe this could have a Hemsworth, because this guy was, he was huge. He definitely had the presence. So I'm like, what superhero would he be? And so I went up to him and was like, is there another superhero, say maybe on the DC side, that you would want to do if you had gotten the opportunity? And I made the suggestion of Aquaman. And the C2E2 crowd went, boo! I'm not joking when I say this. So first of all, I got booed, which hurt. Then, I kid you not, this punk kid, couldn't have been more than 13, basically almost tried to rip the mic away from me and say why Aquaman sucked. And even Chris Hemsworth was like, wait, I mean, I know about Aquaman, but I can't do his accent, but like, I know about Aquaman, but like, tell me more. And so the kid was like, he's just a strong dude who can talk to fish. I'm just like, that's not true. And he was playing it off. He was being a nice boy, but like, I will never forget that. And at that same show, or like the year after that, because it's when the New 52 was about to happen, Jeff Johns was there. And he was doing a new Aquaman series, which became like one of the definitive runs of the character. But a few weeks after that, there was a show called Batman the Brave and the Bold. And it was a show that felt like a Silver Age comic, with the campiness and all of that. And a few weeks after that C2E2, after I said that he should do a series version of Aquaman, they decided to do a musical number with Aquaman called The Curries of Atlantis, basically a sitcom opening. I'm just like, this is why I can't win. This is why. And then they announced kid you not, like after that, they announced the Aquaman series with Jeff Johns, with him being like, at the time, like one of the dominant writers in comics in general. I'm like, thank you. This is what I'm talking about. It was a really good run. So, yeah, things happen at Comic Cons, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. All right. So before we left, I was talking about how I was told not to do superhero comics, but I did it anyway, and they still sell well. But I have done other genres because how I grew up, I watched all sorts of other genres. I watched sci-fi, like with Star Trek and Star Wars. I do not have a preference, for the record. I like them both. Also, Babylon 5 was just better than both of them combined. Yeah, we need like a graphic. Yeah. What you don't like Babylon 5?
No, I like Babylon 5. It's not better.
Subjective. I was gonna make a comic burning joke, but I don't want to.
Oh, you know what? Go back to talk.
Yeah. But I grew up on that, and I grew up on fantasy shows and mysteries. I love mysteries. I grew up on great animated series like Scooby-Doo, like Zoinks, man. And so I was like, I want to do more. So eventually I started making Kickstarters. And if you don't know, Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform where you can put an idea like a comic book up and say, hey, I want to make this. Will you give me money to do it? And I'll give you rewards in turn. And I tried Kickstarters a few times with hilariously disastrous results. And I will tell Dave this one because he doesn't know the story. I did my very first Kickstarter was when I was in college, in the C2E2 days. And I was a college kid and I had a bit of an ego. I'm not going to say it was as big as my hair, but it was close. And I decided my first...
I don't know, Todd. That's pretty big.
Oh, just wait. You're going to see why. I thought, how should I describe what I want to do? And I was going to raise money to make comics. And the title of my Kickstarter was The Next Stan Lee. I did that. You could probably still see it on there. I raised, yeah. I know. It was like, those like things they call learning experiences. Like that was a learning experience. I raised exactly $0. And it came back to haunt me in other ways, but that's fine. But anyway, I restarted my Kickstarter profile with a different email address, and I did a 5-part miniseries called Home. It was a sci-fi fantasy miniseries, and I was so nervous on that first issue, Dave. I really, really was. But I somehow raised over $2,500 to make it, and then I got the whole series funded, and then I did a Disney Pixar style story. Then I started working on my first Sherlock Holmes mystery novel because I'm a big fan of Sherlock, so that was fun. Mm-hmm. Then I did Secrets of Science, which is how I met you, but I'll get to that in a second. And then I did, and then I just started doing more. I would do anthologies. I worked with a wrestler to tell her life story in comic form. I currently am writing a ongoing anime series called Tokyo Blade Detectives. We just did a Kickstarter for issue 12 in February. It was very successful. And then I wrote a Star Wars style novel series called As We Wander the Stars, which I just published book 3 in that, so that was very fun. I also worked with a publisher named SourcePoint Press. They're from Michigan. And I did a book for them called 5 Bullets, 6 Men. And it's just like, it just keeps going. And even now I'm working on new stories, including a medieval story that I hope to have published by next year at the latest. And I got a mystery storyline in the vein of Scooby-Doo or Only Murders in the Building, which is a great Hulu series. And this is what I do. Like, I love creating. I love writing. I love telling these stories and characters because it means a lot to me. And I've worked with some amazing artists, including Alex Garcia, the original Guardians artist. He's been with me this whole time. And I've worked with other artists like Beth Varney and Lam Vivant, who does Tokyo Blade Detectives. I'm working on a horror anthology with a really good noir artist that did some really cool stuff. Might get to talk about that in a few weeks. And I'm always looking for new talents to make stories with because it's fun. I have so many ideas in my head. Like my biggest problem, outside of money, because
Money.
It still costs a lot. It really does. But my biggest problem is that I have so many ideas in my head. I have so many ideas I want to tell, and I will keep making because I have all these stories and all these characters that I want you to see and that I want to see be brought to life. And in many ways, comics is one of the greatest joys I have in my life right now. It's keeping me going, and it lets me know that, hey, no matter what's going on, you still got these books, and you're going to be creating more. So I love it. And if you have your journey, I hope you do it too. And we'll talk more about that when we come back.
Okay, am I pushing the button or are you?
Yes, you're pushing the button.
Thank you.
Welcome back. So I just talked about my journey through comics and making comics, but I also want to tie that into how this podcast was born. And it all has to do with this guy.
Yeah,
Mr.
it's my
Indiana
fault.
fan. I mean, Illinois fan, clearly.
I'm not really a fan. It just, I live in Champaign, or Gibson City, actually, but I work in Champaign, so,
Oh, you the local sports team.
I really didn't know about the Lego one. I didn't. He's like, hey, Todd, I have these buttons and they do things. And like some of them have nice graphics. Like we have one for the Matrix and whatever. And then all of a sudden he pulls out the Lego movie. Like, what button was that? It's just like some random squares on there. Like, do better. So if you didn't see, and I think you can catch it on demand by this point because it's been up for like 2 months at least. When I was making Seekers of Science, we did a Kickstarter recently for Volume 2, which was very successful. And I got to meet, through my mother, one Kelly Finley, one of the great hosts here at WCIA3. And she hosts her own podcast on WCIA3 Plus, a New Kid on the Block.
Kelly, this is all your fault. Just want you to know that.
Yes, this is all your fault, Kelly. Do you know what you have unleashed upon the world?
You'll find out. So we were doing the show because Dave was producing it. And so we were doing New Kid on the Block. And I was just, being me. And my only thought was to get, support for the Kickstarter. Hopefully through you great listeners. So we end the show. And Dave basically corners me outside and goes, hey, I need you to meet our producer, like the general manager. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And so we go downstairs and he grabs, who was it? Is it Angie? It's Angie. And he pulls her over to me and is like, yeah, I think we need to get this guy to do a podcast. I'm like, like no consultation at all. He's just like, hey, I need you to go meet our general manager.
Your energy was there.
It was there.
Your energy was there.
It was there.
You had it for Emily's show as well.
Yeah. I did hyperlocals too.
Yes, and you deserve to be framed with a moving background and the little bug in the background. Yeah.
Do we have a moving background? I don't think we do.
Look on the screen.
Okay.
Look up on the screen. Look at the background.
That is moving. My dad always said I was observant.
All the work that I do.
It's really. I'm not focused on. Get back on me. Like, look, I am focused on this part of the screen, and then I'm not really looking at the outside. But yes, it is moving. I was like, but also if you look at it a right way, it literally blends into yellow. I'm like looking dead on to my own eyes right now, and I can barely see the movement because it blends into yellow. I'm sorry. Not really. Anyway, but he like corners. He was like, "Hey, we need to get this guy to do a podcast." I'm like, "Uh-huh." And I'm like, and she's like, "Yeah, sure. What do you do?" I don't know. This is all Dave's idea. He's like, "Well, we could probably talk about comics because he's a comic writer and everything." So we just started shooting ideas back and forth. And I was like, am I doing this alone? Because like, again, he just sprung this on me. I was there to plug a Kickstarter. And all of a sudden, I'm now going to be the host of a podcast. So we was like, okay, we're doing half hour, full hour. We're definitely going to do an hour because we could talk a lot.
This guy is chatty. This guy is really chatty. Okay, go on.
What are we gonna call it? How is it we're gonna look? Is Dave gonna co-host with me? And everything. I regret it. But yeah, like that's how it happened. So they say that's not what you know, it's who you know. And I was my mother who knew Miss Kelly because they both worked at the Salvation Army, and that led to me meeting Dave, who was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna shove this kid into a podcast." So if you really want to know how comically accurate happened, that's how. I came here to plug a Kickstarter, and Dave was like, "I want this guy to host a podcast."
Yes.
So,
but it works.
It's
working.
Yeah.
And like you, I have a. Oh, by the way, I'm Dave. In case you didn't know, it's right there on the screen. Dave.
He's the it guy.
I'm the it guy. So, like you, I have ideas. But unlike you, I don't have anything published. But years ago, and when you were telling your story, I wasn't looking on my phone out of boredom or anything. I was actually looking at the timeline. Years ago, Marvel had a independent writer audition, and I wrote something called Uniforce number 0, and I submitted it to them, and this was 17 years ago.
Okay, now I feel better because I'm like, how did I miss that?
Yeah, 17 years ago, and I posted it on Facebook, and somebody just tore it to shreds.
Yeah.
And that was sort of ouch.
Yeah. I have a story like that. Okay. So I'm not going to say this was arrogance. I will not. I really feel I was wronged here. We're going really deep on episode 1. During my early days, like when I was working on the first volume of Guardians, I went to C2E2, which is my tradition. Like, in fact, this year was the only year since I started that I haven't gone to C2E2 because they had on the same day as Planet Comic-Con Kansas City. And that's my best show whenever I do sales. So I was like, I have to make a choice. But that's another story. But this was early days. I had just gotten done with, I think, Guardians Volume 1. And I went to the same Making Comics the Marvel Way panel. And I said, hey, I've made comics. Would you look at them? And they go, yeah. So one of the guys there, I will not name him, but he knows who he is. I went to him, and he said to me the following, and I will forever remember what he said because it was, at that time, one of the most important days of my life. Okay? I gave him the volume. I gave him my card. He gave me his card, and he said, call me in a week. And I'm like, really, why a week? And he goes, oh, I'm about to go on vacation, and I'll read this on the plane, and then we can talk. Okay. So, very excited, very young in my comic career. Go and wait a week, call his number, nothing. Wait a few days, call him, nothing. Wait till the new week dawns, call him, nothing. Email him, because he had the email on the card. Nothing. Call him again, a couple days later. Phone picks up. Hello, is this Mr. You got the wrong number. I checked the card against the number I called. Mm-hmm. The card and the number were the same, but the number was wrong. How is that possible? This was an official Marvel card. How was it wrong?
He gave you a fake card?
I have no idea, and I still have the card in my wallet as a reminder. Like, I couldn't believe it. So I'm in panic mode because I'm like, what if everything else was wrong? What if the email was wrong? What if something is not happening? I don't understand. So as Dave is slowly realizing, I'm somewhat of a devious person, and I am nothing if not creative. So what I realized was maybe the number was wrong, but part of it was right. So I thought about it. I looked up the official Marvel headquarters number, and I realized, like, hey, if I type it in this way, I might get his office. And I did.
Wow.
I know. I'm like, that's fifth dimension chess. I pulled it off. Called him. Still, I knew it was his number. He left in the message on his machine. But I'm like, hey, Mr. Yada Yada, I apologize for not getting back to you quicker. The number you gave me on the card was wrong. But I hope we can talk like we did, like you said we would, C2E2. Wait a while, still nothing. Eventually, I get an email back from this guy. And he said two things that'll stick with me forever. Which one do you want first?
Give it to me straight.
Okay. The first thing was, and I swear I want your reaction on this. The first thing was he said, Todd, sorry it took me a while to get back to you. You really shouldn't have called me, though. That's really inappropriate.
He told you to call.
Exactly. He said, call me in a week. Okay. He said that.
Okay.
And then the second thing was, also, I did read your books, but I'm not the one you should talk to. I only hire the artists, not the writers. Then why didn't I give you my stuff in the first place? Yeah. You're the one who said, like, yeah, I'll look over your stuff and tell you whatever, yada, yada, yada. He did give me critiques and whatnot. That's fine. And some of it was fair because, very early in my comic career and all that. But he made it implied that, and I made it clear that I was the writer, and I was giving someone to someone who could potentially hire me. And then he, I'll only hire the artist. And why were we talking in the first place? And just as bad was that when I asked who I should contact to get the writers, he started stonewalling me. And then, I kid you not, he blocked me on Twitter. And right before he did that, I looked on his profile through alternate means, and he wrote a post saying, writers of independent writers, just because you make a book doesn't mean that the gates of Marvel are going to be open to you. Gee, I wonder who he wrote that about.
Yeah.
It hurts to this day. And so, while I will always encourage people to get into comics journey, you have to understand there will be dark times like this. All right. And it hurts, but we move through. I moved on. I still trying to apply to Marvel when I can. I still would love to work for them, but that experience will haunt me because I was young and I wanted to do something special with them. And I was built up by this guy saying like, yeah, I'll help you. And then he just dropped a ton of bricks on me. And
we're gonna let Todd process his emotions.
I need a minute. I need a minute, Dave.
I need a minute. We'll be right back.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. Belvedere. Yes, I am that old. I probably screwed up the quote. I apologize for nothing. But yes, we are back with Comically Accurate. And I do apologize for the sad story I told you, but it is important because comics as a whole, the industry and the people within are full of sad and tragic stories just as much as they are full of positive ones. And so that's why in this podcast that we will be doing in the episodes going forward, we're going to be talking about the highs, we're going to talk about the lows, we're going to be talking about the things that blew our minds and then the things that made us go, huh? Everything and anything is on the docket, and that's the fun part. And as you, our listeners, start listening to the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and put the email address right here on the screen, It'll come out in a little bar, and you'll see where to contact us.
Yeah, and if you have a suggestion for what you want us to talk about, whether it be a historical thing about the comic book industry or an upcoming topic, like, say, the Avengers Doomsday movie or Spider-Man Brand New Day or the recent release of Daredevil's Born Again Season 2 or Punisher One Last Kill or the upcoming Supergirl movie, whatever you want, we'll be up for talking about it because there is so much to talk about with the comic book industry.
Comprehensive genre that we could talk for hours about, which is why we're here.
Pretty much. So we'll be talking about, for example, next week as a teaser, we'll be doing the all-time great nerd debate, Marvel versus DC. And we'll be talking about every element of it, from the comics themselves to video games to cartoons to movies to TV series and everything in between. Who is definitively better? We will decide. There will be an answer, maybe.
Okay. I'll save it for next week.
There will be an answer, maybe.
I'll save it for next week.
We'll save it for next week. But comics mean a lot to us. I like I said, I read comics every week, and I just went to it was now Dark Tower Comics. Used to be G-Mark. Dark Tower Comics over on Neal Street, right by the train station, and I got me a bunch of comics, including Absolute Catwoman, which I enjoyed. X-Men was there. Let's see, what was the other? Green Lantern Corps. Emperor Aquaman. I never thought I'd say Emperor Aquaman, but that's a good one.
I always thought he was a king.
Technically he is, but it's complicated. It's a spin-off of what happened in the DCKO event. See, we're already branching. It's like, we're going to educate you. That's another thing. We'll also be talking about historical parts of the comic industry, like what happened in the 90s when Marvel almost died. Did you know that?
That's why they had to sell everything to Sony.
Yeah. And then the Marvel Knights series came around and helped salvage things, which was headed up in part by a friend of mine, Jimmy Palmiotti. Really great guy. But there's so much to talk about. And then, like, what is the future of comics? That's another thing we can be talking about, whether it be with indie, whether it would be Dark Horse and Image have been doing, of course, incredible work ever since they started up. Spawn is still going. How is Spawn still going?
They got a new Spawn, She Spawn now.
Yeah, She Spawn, He Spawn, Tales of the Gunslinger, which is also done by Jimmy Palmiotti. There's, and then the independent scene, especially through Kickstarter, there's so many new independent comic books coming out, and not just ones by me that you should totally back every time I have a Kickstarter. But yeah, and then Comic Cons. That's another thing we're definitely going to be talking about because I frequent Comic Cons quite frequently. I do about 10 to 12 shows a year, and I'm always trying to do more. I just did, at the time of this recording, Indiana Comic-Con in Indianapolis. Nick Cage was there. Here's the fun fact for you. This was his first ever Comic-Con in the U.S.
Wow.
I kid you not. And
he was Ghost Rider before he was Spider-Noir. He's never done a comic book convention?
Well, no. And remember, he was also in the first, he was a main character in the first Spider-Verse movie. So, like, he's been attached to comic books for years, not to mention the fact that he is a huge comic book fan. He had an original Superman, Action Comics #1. All right? Like, he had an original $1 million value Action Comics. Like, he's that dedicated. He named his son Kal-El.
Okay.
Yeah, that's canon. But, and it was his first event. But just as surprisingly, they shadow dropped his announcement. I straight up on Facebook, they posted his arrival 2 days before the event.
Cool.
No, not cool. That should have been the showstopper. That should have been like, hey, Indiana Comic-Con is happening June 5th through 7th. Oh, by the way, Nick Cage is here. And then they're like, no, by the way, Nick Cage is coming in the show. That's going to be in 3 days. I had a friend, shout out to Lauren. She was like, Nick Cage was at a con 8 hours away from me and no one told me. I'm like, do you want me to get his autograph for you? I didn't get it, but a lot of people didn't know. And so apparently his line was short at times because people hadn't prepared to get his autograph. There was $250, which, fair. But like, how do you do that? How do you do that to Nick Cage where he's doing his first ever Comic-Con on your home turf and you like shadow
Someone dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah.
I don't do Comic-Cons often, but I'm pretty sure that. Were you trying to mock me? That's very uncouth, Dave. Yeah, I don't know why you're called the it guy. That's very uncouth. Like when I tried to steal the Declaration of Independence, so it was very uncouth. Let's do this.
Well, yes, I am a man of many talents. I have multitudes, and not just in my hair. So. But there's so much to talk about with Comic-Cons, the ones I've been to. And if you don't know, there are a lot in Illinois, in Indiana, in Missouri, in Michigan, Kentucky, even Iowa. Iowa had one a while ago in Des Moines Con. So, and I had friends who went there who apparently did really well there. So if you are obviously if you're watching, so you're Central Illinois, but if you've been wanting to go to a show but don't know where, I will be dropping information about where you can go and the events that you can go check out, whether they be local or in another state, because I'll be there and maybe you can come say hi and, rep your comically accurate fandom. So, yeah. Well, we're totally going to be famous, Dave. like totally. Like it's hot.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's like a podcast I watch. So like, fun.
We do stuff.
We do stuff. One would hope.
If you ever want to look at it, that's the script right there. It's on Facebook. It's called Uniforce #0.
No.
Ponderings.
I wish. I mean, going back to the story from before, I wish that they would do something like that now. In this day, and I've tried. I was telling Dave during a break, I've tried getting in with DC and Marvel many times over through many different people, and it just seems like almost like an impossible hurdle, which is why I'm glad I have my own fan base and Kickstarter and everything. And I'm going to keep trying because it's a dream of mine to do that. And that'll be another episode like Dave and I, what would be our dream comics and characters to work on, because I'm sure Dave has as many ideas as I do.
They're all sitting on a Google Drive somewhere, half stories, half baked, but you've inspired me, my friend.
I do my best.
You've inspired me. I'm going to actually finish one and try it.
And that's something I'll also talk about is, what is a good step-by-step process to make your own comic, from writing to art to lettering to publishing. Where do you look? I will happily do a breakdown of that so that you at home or wherever you're listening to this, they have options for that, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. We'll know how to make it so that in case me and Dave, or Dave and I, however you want to say it, I never understood. Like, what? Just let me say me at first. Like, me.
He doesn't like grammar.
I don't. Like,
grammar sucks for him, but he likes literature. So
it does. Like I know it seems like an oxymoron, but this is why God created editors. It's their job to look over and like, hey Todd, this doesn't make sense. Hey Todd, my editor, God bless her, Katie, she digs me. She loves my work. She's said it numerous times in incredibly kind ways. But then she'll go, Todd, I sometimes have no idea what you're talking about, and I'm like, you've never heard this phrase? And she goes, no, Todd, I haven't. I don't know what you're talking about. So this podcast is really just about two guys who love comics in all their many forms. And we're just going to have fun every week talking with you about either certain themes, certain ideas, certain events. And we'll even have a special wheel.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. So we gotta give him something. We gotta give him something to hold on to. God. So we'll be able to go through rapid fire topics that you can suggest by that email that Dave popped up, and hopefully will pop up again. But we're just gonna have fun looking at all aspects of this great industry, because comics are more than just stories. They inspire. They create wonder. They make us wonder what else will happen next. And with each issue, with each adaptation, well, the good ones anyway, and with each creation, this comic universe grows, and we want to be a part of it with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can trust us, ladies and gentlemen, because we are accurate, comically accurate,